officially begun recording.
Now we know.
So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us for Media Lab this morning. Ann Brucker's back and I'm going to let her introduce herself and just take it away. Thanks, Ann.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikki. I'm really excited to be here. This is one of my favorite things to do, but also to talk about, because it's so fun and so relaxing and so rewarding. I'm Ann Brucker, and like Andrea, I taught in the district. I taught in Billings here for about actually 17 years. And then I left for about 3 to go work for a small ed tech startup company. And then this past year, when quarantine happened, my 16-year-old son, he was a sophomore last year. We decided that since, the nuttiness of the previous year where it shut down and he was home, and then were they coming back? Were they not coming back? We decided, since my husband and I were both working from home, let's just keep him home. So school starts and he doesn't have enough teachers for all of his classes. And it was just a weird time anyway. It was stressful for everyone, as you guys know, because we all lived it together. But I was laying awake one night griping, I can't believe the school district, and I was like, crap, I cannot complain about this because I can help. Dang it. So I left my fun little job and came back to teaching remote for this year. And Andrea, if I would have known you, I had all these big ideas, of how I could do it. Yeah, anyway, it was really an interesting year, and I'm super glad I did it, because I always taught 4th and 5th grade in my past, and I loved those guys, but I taught middle school this past year. And so solidifying that continuum of where they are to where they're going was like, oh my gosh, it just really helped me remember my place in all of that. So I'm happy to be able to step back this year. I'm currently jobless. I decided I'm not going to go back and teach. I don't want to go back into a building. So I'm doing, stuff like this, and I'm just really kind of exploring what it is that I just love, and I'm going to try to make a job out of it. I don't know what that will be, but I'm in classes right now to do graphic design. Hello, Laurie Wolverton. So I want to make sure and lay that out there that I'm not an artist. I just am a person who likes drawing and doodling and sketching, and I always have, and it's something I just do for fun. And so if I can turn that into something that, I can live off of for a while, that would be so awesome. So on that note, I'm really excited to share this app with you, whether you just take it up for fun or whether you end up putting it into your classroom with your students, or just using it as you digest information you're learning. Sketchnoting in particular is really an amazing tool. So what I have over here, I'm going to share my screen. And I promise you, I will get very confused. Oh, Nikki, I did it. I announced that I was sharing my screen. Did you hear me? I just felt like
you every time I say that now.
I spent a year trying to untrain myself to do that, and it has not worked. So, okay, I promise you I will get confused, because what I have happening here is over on the left, I have my Google screen with my the presentation in it and the link to the slides, because there's some kind of tutorial sketches in here that I included that you might want to have access to after or during the show here. But then on the right, what I have is I'm mirroring my iPad, and my iPad is here on the desk. And so I promise you, at least 4 times, I'm going to try to click on here and manipulate my iPad with my computer mouse. So just bear with me. I promise it'll happen. It's just part of the thrill of learning together. So this is me. This is the link to the, I think I can, if I zoom in, does that work for you guys?
Yeah, it looks good. I'm going to put the link in the chat box for
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki.
People can grab it from there.
Yep. And I'm sure by now you guys know this, but Bitly's are case sensitive. So make sure that you capitalize the PBSS in that URL. Okay, so first, I want to make sure that I share this because it seems like every time I talk about it, people are like, wait a minute, how are you doing that? To get my iPad onto my computer here, I'm not using Zoom to do that. That was a really awesome feature of Zoom, by the way, this year. But instead, what I'm using is QuickTime on my computer. So when I plug my iPad in to my computer, I just open up QuickTime. Here, I'm going to actually shut it. It doesn't look like anything happens. When I open it up, nothing appears, but I can see on my other screen over here that the QuickTime toolbar up at the top popped up. And unfortunately, I wish that it would let me see it over here. It's saying QuickTime Player, File, Edit, View, Window. If I go to File and click New Movie Recording, what happens is it brings up my screen because it's going to record a screencast. So this is another way you could record screencasts. But right here next to the record button, there's this little drop down triangle guy, and I can select my iPad from it. Tracy Piltz, if you guys have taken any of her classes, and I and another friend, Chandel, were presenting at NCCE a few years ago, and the internet was terrible. And we were panicking because our entire presentation, all of us, our entire presentations were, you know, in the cloud. So we had to figure out a way to cast our devices to our computers without the wireless. So this is connected. It doesn't matter whether you have internet or not. You can show your stuff from your iPad. So I went and bought a really long cord, like 10 feet long, so I can wander around with it. It's super, super handy when you're trying to show something on your iPad. Okay, so you're all here for learning about Procreate, but I'm going to pause a second and talk about the main way that I learned to use this app, and that was through sketchnoting. And over on the right here, look, I'm using my iPad. A couple of things that we're going to explore today. First is why sketchnoting is so cool. What is sketchnoting exactly? And then how to do it. So first, why sketch? For me, it takes those pictures that I am meant to make in my mind when I'm listening to someone speak or reading something that I know I'm supposed to be absorbing. Oh, look at Artice. Hold on. And it solidifies it in my brain. That's the biggest reason. And there's some science behind that too. But for me, when I doodle, even like when I was a kid and I'd be doodling flowers or smiley faces or worms or whatever on my paper while my teachers were talking, I got in trouble for it often. But it actually is helping. So people who are doodlers really actually learn better that way. I'll come back to these, but if you're looking for some really, really cool sketchnoters, like legitimate sketchnoters to follow on Twitter, here's a few of those. And you have these slides, you can get to them later, but I got a chance to sit down with Sylvia Duckworth. I'll show you some of her work in a minute, and have her guide me through how to use this app, because she makes it look so easy. These people can sit in a talk, like a lecture. A few years ago, I went to see Sir Ken Robinson there in Bozeman. And I was trying to sketch and listen at the same time and listen and sketch. And it was so hard. And there's tricks for that. But Sylvia Duckworth shared some of those tricks. Kathy Schrock has an entire website devoted to apps and tools and shortcuts and tricks and tips for sketchnoting. And Carrie Bauckham, this is Heck Awesome. I think she's still Heck Awesome on Twitter. She's just a fantastic human. She's fun and she's just awesome. So those are a few people who take things that they watch or things that they read and make connections in their own minds. So therefore there's no wrong answer, to generate ideas and lead to better understanding. And that's essentially what sketchnoting is. You're learning, listening, observing, whatever, making your own connections in your own meaningful way, and then using that to produce something that's not only really cool, but that's way more meaningful to you. You can see just doing this, I'm not talking from a script or anything, but because I drew all of this, I remember what I wanted to say. So the important thing and why we're really here is how to actually use this super cool tool, Procreate, to make stuff. So you're going to see various tools here, but the important thing I think that's right in the middle, no erasing. One of the, I think it was Carrie Bauckham maybe, she said, sketch note with a pen or use markers because then you can't erase. It forces you to stick with what you did. There's no wrong way to do it. Practice is what makes you get better. You can do it on paper, you can use graphic organizers, whatever, just draw. And this represents practice one thing every day. So practice how you draw people. What's your style for drawing people? Practice your punctuation marks, different kind of whatever you would consider quote bubbles and those things that you're going to put in there. Building your visual vocabulary so that when you're ready to put something together, you can really quickly draw stuff. So that's what we're going to get to. And I have this video here that has the best words on why to sketch before we get into how sketch. And I learned this last year that muting myself and letting you guys watch a video on your own device is way better than me trying to stream it. So I'm just going to zip it and let you guys go to this link here. Oops. And watch that for a few minutes. Okay. I said some really profound stuff there. So just pretend like, oh, you got it. Okay. One, Sunny Brown is just darling. She's fun to listen to and watch, but some really powerful kind of justifications for things that I always felt my whole life. I'm going to show you a sketch in just a second that I did in like one of my first sketches, but this slide that I hope I'm showing you right now, to me, was kind of the most powerful validator for how I've felt my whole life. That we have 4 ways to intake information, and you have to activate 2 of them in order to actually learn something. So if you can only learn one of those, like in a lecture, I was telling Nikki before you guys came in, I am definitely not an auditory learner. I'm pretty much a ADHD 10-year-old boy, I think. That's about the attention span that I have. And I really struggle to just sit and listen to something. But if I can activate emotion by drawing something or amusing myself by, I don't know, my stick figures or how bad they are, I can soak that stuff in so much better. So again, visual learners here, I took a screenshot of this because I wanted to remember it. A better way would have been to maybe sketchnote it, but she already did the work for me. So sketchnoting can have a lot of uses in a lot of different kind of realms. I have included something by almost all those people that I showed you over here in this little montage, but also some work I did with kids. We were doing media literacy with a group of kids in middle school, and you can see a couple of them. This is how they decided to represent their thinking through sketchnoting. This was of some music teachers talking about how to use technology to integrate in their lessons, and then all the way up to like the legitimate pros who some of these people sketchnoted these things live, like while something was going on. So you'll see Sylvia Duckworth in there, Carrie Bauckham in there, along with some really great child-like experts, every one of which gets something out of putting their thoughts down in sketches. So I want to give you a good foundation to start out with. First of all, I want to explain the tool itself, Procreate. Was everybody able to get it downloaded and everything okay? Awesome. There is a phone app too. It's called Procreate Pocket. I actually use it quite a bit when I just want to make quick edits to pictures. So if you couldn't get it on your iPad, you can also get it on your iPhone. But there's some basic drawing tools and then some settings that I'm going to talk about. They seem a little bit overwhelming when you just look at them like this, but I want to point out that this resource right here, the Procreate Handbook, is awesome. This is the actual authority on how to use this app. And I love the way that they organized it. If you're looking for how to do something, and P.S., everything that I'm doing here is either was a half an hour session that I got to sit with Sylvia Duckworth or was self-taught, or I looked it up on here. So for goodness sake, if I can figure this stuff out, you guys, you can. And also there's a lot more stuff that you can do in this app than what I've even thought about. To pause on that and just show you what I mean, I'm going to go over to my iPad on the right here. I was working with a sweet little gal from senior high this last year who wants to be an animator when she gets older. You can actually animate here in Procreate. So you can create animations where you like toggle something back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So if I play this, you can see me animating. I was trying to play with my hair whipping around. I learned that from a high school kid. I had no idea that that feature lived in this app. So again, my point of showing that is just know that this app has a lot more in it, than what I know or what I'm even going to show you. But if you want to find it, the Procreate Handbook is great. There's even in the Books app, you can download, I think I put it on here, I know it's on my phone, into your library, right here, the Pocket Handbook Guide. So then if you're not online, if you're on an airplane or something and you want to learn, it's got all kinds of really pretty how-tos and stuff in there. So that's there in the, I guess it'd be in the App Store or in the Books library. Okay, so let me get back here. I want to have us get over the, I guess we'd say, fear of drawing itself. Not that you're afraid. Oh, and here's some other really fun things. I'm going to bring up this right here, and I'll come back to it in a second, but I want to show you why. When I first started sketching, I was watching people sketching and we're just using this app. I was like, how do they do it so fast? Well, they practice. The more you practice, the better you get. And I didn't know what to practice. So around the same time that I was learning how to do this, I discovered this site here, Quick Draw with Google. And actually, you know how Google does some creepy stuff. This is cool, but there's a creepy element to it. They use this so that when people do doodle something or sketch something or make a really crude drawing of something, their AI technology is learning to recognize and generalize, well, I guess more compartmentalize those shapes into figures, actual figures. So we can do it kind of as a game. It's just Quick Draw with google.com. And in case you don't know this, it's really hard to draw with the mouse, but it's going to give you something to draw. Draw a banana in under 20 seconds. Okay.
I see string bean. Oh, I know, it's banana.
No.
I see squiggle, or ocean, or mustache. Oh, I know, it's mouth. I see paperclip. Oh, I know, it's dumbbell.
Oh, man.
I see line. I see skyscraper. I see fence. Oh, I know, it's hospital.
Okay, what couple more here?
I see skyscraper.
It doesn't know yet.
Oh, I know, it's pants.
Oh, this is the last one.
I see leg. I see door, or remote control. Oh, I know, it's cup.
Okay, so here's what's fun about this. If you go to the data, this is what people have drawn. So let's just take elephant. If I click on elephant, this is all the stuff from around the world that people have drawn in 20 seconds that have taught Google to recognize an elephant. We all see things a little differently. Look at this, it looks more like an aardvark. But because there's consistent things about an elephant, this AI technology knows what to look for because of the compilation of these thousands and thousands. Look at, I've scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and see this is only to there. There's tons of them. So I take away from this a couple things. One, this is really fun. Two, you can use it to quickly improve your quick visual thinking, but also this is freaking cool. Everybody sees something a little bit differently, and everybody has an ability to make something look the same, but yet different. The more you practice these shapes, the better you get. So do you guys want to play with this for just a second? It's really fun. Okay.
I see potato or circle or nail or street light. Oh, I know, it's long hair. I see potato or peanut or nail or trumpet or baseball bat. I see banana or hammer or sleeping bag or cup. I see apple. Oh, I know, it's cannon.
Oh, geez.
I see pool or potato or pond or peanut or bread. Oh, I know, it's stethoscope. I see hexagon or underwear or pillow. I see tooth or mouth or harp or lion. Oh, I know, it's watermelon. I see hula hoop or potato or bucket or cup. I see mug. Oh, I know, it's wine glass.
I think you can play this on your iPad too. Oops. Yep. Well, that's way easier. Yeah, the robot voice is awesome. Notice my drawings are not any better when I'm drawing with my pencil in my iPad. I have no clue what you're drawing. I'm stumped. You draw a fast wine bottle. Seen one or two of those maybe? It did not recognize my bus. I stumped it. So I was like, well, what did other people do that theirs were so good? So I went and I found it. I think I made mine too toddler-like. Not sure exactly. So, all right, that app actually has some good use in what we're doing here. And that is really just to get you faster and more proficient at moving your pencil or your finger and recognizing what stuff looks like. Even here, these are pretty rudimentary drawings. They're not fancy at all. There were some fancy ones in there, but you don't have to be an artist to sketch. Oh, hey. Whoops.
Sorry, I couldn't guess it.
Shush. Okay. So let me go back to here. This is what I, again, want to reiterate. Sketching is just creating, what did she say? Sunny Brown said, to creating marks, random marks to solidify thinking. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be good, but the more you practice, the easier it gets, especially if you can quickly recall how to draw something like a brain to represent thinking or a light bulb to represent an idea. So I'm gonna just give you some examples of things that I thought that I might want to learn how to draw quickly, or to save as individual icons so that I could import them quickly and use them on the fly. Note, I have never once done that, even though I'm pretty sure here in my photo album, I have saved, go back, I have saved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Wait. Go back. Photos. I just want to see my library. I never use my iPad. I feel like it's, oh, I bet I trashed them. I had an album of hundreds of icons that my thought was, okay, I'll draw this and then I'll just use it every time I need whatever. The problem with that was I never remembered if I had already drawn that thing or not. So then I didn't end up, it didn't work out so well. So I deleted them and now you see I don't have anything on there. But here's some things that you might want to think about. What will I use often when I'm drawing something I hear, something I read, something I see? For me, idea, pencil, like I'm writing something, thought bubble. These are some icons that you might want to make as a collection for yourself, or just practice, like with Quick Draw, how to quickly create. So as you're kind of thinking about some things you might want to start making, I'm going to just go ahead and go on to how to do this. You're going to be in charge of what to draw. I'm going to show you how to draw. So I used Procreate to create this terrible, because it's so shadowy, little tutorial on how to create. So let me go to this drawing. One thing while I'm scanning through here that I'll point out, there's opportunities, I will say, that live online that allow you to practice and build your kind of visual library. One of those is called Sketch 50. So my first one that I ever did was back in 2017, and every day they give you a prompt and then you could do whatever you wanted. So the idea was after 50 days, you would have made 50 drawings that just did something for you. There were people who did really, really simple, like just did a light bulb. And then there were nerds like me who did like a light bulb with a book layered in it and a person with a brain. Because once I start drawing, it's hard to stop. So Sketch 50 was probably the best way for me to build that visual vocabulary, because it kind of forced me to draw things. I also learned how to pull this into another app, which I think Tracy has shared about, the green screen doing animation app. So I was able to take layers of this and actually animate it. So I made the dog's tail wag and it made the projector look like it was running, like made the little wheels turn. So you can do a lot of app smashing too with your own drawings. So Sketch 50 is one. And then another one that I really loved, and actually, I'm going to stop. Behind me on the wall right here, these 4 pictures that are hanging on the wall, these were actually collaborative, I'm not going to call them art, sketches that were done as part of an event called it's World Sketchnoting Day. Hang on, let me find it. Okay, let me find one. Past the sketch note. So every year they put out on Twitter like application, we'll call it. That's not the right word, but you just sign up for it. Carrie Bauckham does it, and then Monica Spillman. Anyway, they put out like the theme each year, and then they put you on teams, and each team has 5 or 6 people from all over the world, and you pass the sketch note. So someone will start the drawing, and then the next person will add to that drawing, and then the next person will add to that drawing. And there's people that do it on paper, and then there's people that do it on like an app like this. But you can see that when I got it, it looked, I don't have the original one in there. I added this thing. I have determined that I definitely have a style of stick figure. Look at this though. Look at this dog. And this guy kicking the earth and the airplane, and then this person here. By the end of it, after it's gone around the world a time or whatever, you end up with these really cool pictures that were from everybody all over the world. It's so fun. This one right here, the first person passed it to the second person, who passed it to the third person, and then that person didn't do anything with it. I was like the fourth person. I was waiting in my turn. Like I never got tagged for my turn to fall through. So then we just decided as the rest of the team that we were just going to pick up where we left off. So I took the original drawing, found a site to break it into pieces, made it part of the drawing itself, and then we just took it back over. So this kind of opportunity is not only really fun, but again, it gives you a reason to draw something. So I'm going to just go back and I'm going to start a brand new sketch, and I'm going to show you how to do some of this stuff. So you can see over here on the left, first, I start with a grid. I learned this right from Sylvia Duckworth, who I think is like the master. I should have talked you through that. When I'm in this gallery right here, I just click the plus and that started up a new drawing. I actually, most of the time, draw sideways like this and do screen size. Let me get that bigger. So because I had my iPad portrait to start with, it created a portrait canvas, but I can really easily just take that with 2 fingers and turn it to be sideways. So you can come into the little wrench here and you can change your canvas, crop and resize if you want to do that there. But I usually just do screen size and do it sideways. Most of the time, that's what I do. Then let me shrink this a bit. This sounds kind of like a cheat, and it is until you mess yourself up with it. So this cheat is to use, start with a grid that you paint all over the whole surface. And there's, as I was saying up here, you have brushes, smudge, eraser, and layers. Right here in the app, of course, get away. Sorry, that wants to go away. Right up top, you see on the top right, I have the brush that's blue. And then I have that finger that's like that, that's smudge. The eraser is to the right of that. And then layers is to the right of that. The colored blob on the far right is the color you're currently working with. So I just want to show you real quick how this works. This adjusts the shade, the darkness or lightness, I guess, of the color. And the wheel on the outside adjusts the value. I'm not sure those are not right art words, but if I want a red, then inside the circle, it lets me decide which red you want. And there's actually a more common way that I use to choose colors that I'll show you in a minute. You also have palettes down at the bottom. I've created several of my own, but Procreate does give you some palettes that you can choose from, like this comic one or new drink. You can download these from their website. You can get more palettes, but I usually just use this iconic palette because it's got colors that I mostly use, and then I added to it. So you can add colors to a palette. I'll show you how to do that in a sec. So once you have chosen a color, you see how it pops up over on the right side there. It doesn't really matter what your cheat layer, so to speak, your grid color is, as long as you can see it. So I just picked green, and I'm going to tap on my brush icon, and it's going to bring up all of these different types of brushes. I mean, there's tons of them. You can download these. I imported some from the website. I imported a square grid. But if you go to, I think it's textures, down towards the middle of textures, you see the grid there. When I draw, you see that it brings in kind of a smallish grid. If I lift my pencil or my finger off of the grid and start drawing again, it will overlap. So I'm going to show you a couple of other things here. On the far left, do you see where I'm sliding this thing on the left? The top one is to adjust the brush size. So if you draw a grid with the brush size really low, It's so tiny you can't even see that it's a grid unless you zoom way, way in. If you make it really big, it's so big that it might not be useful for you. So I would pick a medium size, I don't know, maybe 2/3-ish, and keeping your finger or your pencil down on the canvas the whole time, I just kind of swipe a grid over the whole thing. That's going to be my cheat layer. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So again, if you go into brushes and textures, you're going to paint over the whole surface in one motion, a grid. Okay, now here's the place where I promise you will mess up. The layers tool next to the color there, you need to put in a new layer. I can't even tell you how many times that I have not added a new layer and I've started drawing something and it just looks great and blah, 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 blah. But it is, my stuff is like entwined with the grid and I can't use it anymore because I have to erase the grid and it's really hard. So I'm sure like I could push reference here and that would mean I wouldn't be able to draw on it. I'm not sure. So I just really try to remember. I can even rename it by tapping and say rename. I'll say cheat, do not touch or whatever. This is going to just be my guide that I use to draw everything else. So then I'm going to add that new layer and this is the layer where I'm going to draw. So I'm going to change my pen type. I used to do inking and which one is it? The gel pen, about that thick. Let me show you why. I'm going to change to say dark, dark blue. I'm going to use the grid to actually make my letters. I figured out that making them bigger is easier than making them smaller. And I'm going to do like one grid for lowercase and 2 grids for capitals. Hi. There. Now, do you see how when I hold, you can't see me doing it, but when I draw, it adjusts to a straight line or a curved line. If after you draw something, you just leave your finger or your pencil on the screen there, it'll correct it for you and it'll straighten it out. If you feel like that's cheating, just don't do that. So I'm just going to draw my R as I draw my R. Okay, so now when I come over to the right, I can see how it looks by just turning my cheat layer off. So I just uncheck the box and the cheat layer goes away, but now my letters are nice and straight. They're all uniform in size. That's why I call it a cheat layer. You notice here that my writing is really thin and I've got that blob at the beginning of the end. Because of that, I started going to the airbrushing tool and using the small hard airbrush. Notice that when I click on there, I can make adjustments to the brush itself. I don't know enough about any of this stuff to edit these myself. I have played with them before. Like I know I don't want it to taper at the end. I'm not really sure what to mess with here. So I could just slide them around and see how it changes up there. Ah, look, I don't want it to taper. I want it to go all the way to the end. I don't want it to touch taper. I want it to go all the way. So you can mess around in there like that and it shows you what it's going to look like. With the airbrush, I can get a nice thin line too by just making it smaller. So that's what this top one is the brush size. Down here is the opacity. So I can, if I want to draw something or write something that's kind of see-through, sort of thinnish, opaque, I can easily do that. And so you see how at the top it shows through what I drew. So I'm going to do it all the way opaque and I'm going to make my brush size be smaller. And I'm going to just go over this by holding down, and I am going to let it help me correct because I like how it looks better. Okay, so that's the super basics of how to actually get a mark and how to get it nice and tidy and straight. Consider it cheating if you wish, whatever. So some shortcuts that I did down here. drag the dot to flood a closed shape with color. So let's say that I want to fill in this E right here without having to color it like a crayon. I want to make it be red. So I'm going to choose just a color, whatever color you want. And from the dot over here to this E, I'm just going to drag the dot down like this and let it go. Woo! Now, why did that happen? Do you know why? What layer am I drawing in right now? Ooh, it wants to see my cheat layer. Okay, so let's turn that off. Okay, try again. Ah! Why is that happening? I'm not really sure. For some reason, it thinks I'm in my cheat layer. So I'm just going to come and tap on layer 2 again. Okay, you guys, I really truly don't know why that's happening. But okay, to get around it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go on the inside of this E. And I'm going to completely surround that part. Now I'm going to, why? Hang on. I'm going to close it and come back in. Something funky is happening there. What should be happening, and what hopefully is happening for you, it just is supposed to dump color in that one spot. I'm going to delete this a sec. There we go. Jeez. So you notice how it doesn't go all the way to the edges. I've got some little gaps here. I can fix that one of a couple ways. I can just fill them in with my pencil, or I can undo that and I can adjust the threshold that my flood fills. So when I drag, see at the top, I've got that blue line for the threshold. It's doing it at about 50% threshold. If while that blue line is showing, I just drag my pen farther to the right, it adjusts it. Now I've dumped too far. So I'm going to back it off just a little bit. I think the problem is because I did it in something that's already drawn. That's why it's coloring like that. So I'm just going to draw a circle and practice this. If the threshold is too low, it won't fill to the edges. I'll show you what I mean. See how you get like these weird little gappy things up there? So while your blue line is still there, adjust your threshold that way. I find this happens a lot when I'm drawing people. And if I choose a pen that tapers, like I was showing you, so see how I have a gap here? When I go to fill it, it's going to flood the whole page, the whole layer. So just close that gap and then fill from there. The other thing, I showed you how to hold the end to make a perfect straight line or a curve. If you want to match a color, like let's say that I have been drawing this and then I've moved on and I'm drawing with blue and I don't want to have to go up there to the palette to fill in this hole. I can just long hold on something. You see how that pops up? And then my top right little circle changes color. That allows me to color match something on the screen. That is super useful when I do something like this. So I'm going to go over to the right there. I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see better. In the little wrench menu, if I click on the wrench and go to add, I can insert a photo that I've already done. Let's see. Oh, look, there they are. Here's some stuff that I've already drawn, and I really like the color of my mittens in this picture. So I'm going to bring that picture in. Whoa. I'm going to zoom it way back, and I want to fill in this thing with that exact color green. So I'm going to unselect that. I'm going to long hold on the green. See how my color circle up there, turn that color, and then just drag it. Ah! Now that happened because it's trying to flood this layer. I want to go back to layer 2 and fill in that one. And maybe I'll do a few more. So I can turn these layers off by unchecking the box. Or if I know I'm finished with that, I can swipe it to the left and do one of these things. Lock it, duplicate, or to delete it. Ooh, and locking. Maybe that's what I should have done with my cheat layer, so I couldn't accidentally draw in it. So because I got rid of my cheat layer, I'm going to put another one in there. And I'm going to make it dark brown. Oops. I'm going to choose textures, go to my grid. I like to zoom the canvas way out. It's less of a chance of me dropping that line, so to speak. Okay, and then I'm going to try to lock it and see if that works. I think, what that does is it doesn't allow me to draw in that layer on accident unless I unlock it. But now here's a problem. You see how I have the grid on top of my picture? We're going to use this to our advantage in a minute. I'm just going to drag these layers the other way. I put the grid underneath the picture. All right, so on that note, we're going to go on to 102, and I'm going to show you some of these. Once you have drawn, even if it's just a heart or a star or a smiley face or whatever, there's a couple of things that you can also do. The toolbars here, I showed you brushes. The smudging tool, if you tap on it twice, it's going to bring up the same brush collection as your pens have or your brushes have. But you can use these to smudge. So like think of it as blending your different drawings. So if you want something to be kind of fuzzy around the edge, you might want to have like a soft airbrush, or you might want to have something that looks kind of like watercolor. When you choose the smudge tool, it blends it with whatever's around it. So I need to adjust the brush size again, and I'm just going to come around to the edges here and draw, or I should say, pretend this is a little puddle of paint and I just drug that kind of brush through it. You can adjust the opacity on that too. So here it's kind of doing it sort of solid. If I want it to be subtle, I can drag the opacity down and then just kind of go around the edges. It just makes a really cool kind of shady, not shady, smudgy. I guess that's the best word for it. Smudgy look. You could use that for like clouds or water, anything like that. It's just a more kind of artistic-y looking thing. One thing that I kind of learned the hard way was if I want that look, I can also just go to that brush, choose that same brush and paint with it. But I think artists would tell you there's a difference in painting and I guess they call it relief, like you're removing color from something. So think about the smudge tool as kind of removing color or spreading color around, and the brush is you're adding color. So you can see I use the same brush on the right. I did the paint tool, and on the left I did the smudge tool. One last one that you have is the erase tool, and it's the same thing. If I tap on it twice, I can bring up what kind of eraser I want to use. If I go to that exact same brush and erase with it, it's going to erase in that same pattern. So you can see now I'm taking color away, or I can make it erase more subtly. So think about the blend as sort of halfway in between erasing and adding color. Okay, then that's what those 4 tools are up top. On the bottom here, what I have is that other toolbar over on the left here, right beside where it says gallery. These are your actions, and you can do all of this stuff. There are submenus in there that I have never even looked at before. So you can insert files, photos, take a photo, you can add text in there, that's newish. Cut, copy, and paste are in there. Canvas, where you can adjust stuff quickly, and share. Hang on just a sec. Can you please repeat settings for getting it to autocorrect? Oh, good question. Sorry, Andrea, I missed that one. To get it to autocorrect, if you just hold your, if you just hold your pen down while you do it, it should just automatically correct it for you. If it doesn't, it's going to be up here in the canvas somewhere, probably under gesture
It was the
control.
holding.
Ah, good, the holding.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, somewhere in here you can turn that off too. It's in one of the menus, but good. Holding is super useful.
Thank you.
Also, yeah, see up here where it says edit shape? After you've drawn something, you can edit it that way too. So you can make it like a line be more wacky. or turn it into like a semicircle. So you can curve stuff that way too. Okay. One thing I want to show you really cool that I stumbled on by accident. I was like, get out. When you go to video, well, you can either do it here under share and choose down here, animated GIF, animated PNG, whatever, or you can go to video. Oops. This will record for you automatically a time-lapse video of your drawing. So as you're working, you can be like, oh, this drawing is really terrible, but watch it to show you where you've been. Hold on, I'm gonna go back to a different one so you can see something actually be born. I'm gonna go back to my very first sketch note. That was this one. And I'm going to hit the wrench and I'm going to hit video. Oops. Time-lapse replay. See my cheat layer. There's me adding a banner, flooding by mistake, trying to get the font right. I decided I would repaint the whole Procreate logo. That was a pain. I love this. I think that's so cool. It's just tracks of your learning. It's showing something that you made. So when you get frustrated, you can be like, yeah, but look at when I started this, it was terrible. So that's the time-lapse video. And it just makes that automatically unless you turn that off. Okay, so that's what those are. Oh, I'm sorry. I should probably say in here what these others are too. Adjustments. This is where you can do all of this. This is how I make things have a shadow. I overused it when I figured this out, and that's why everything looks so, when I wanted a shadow, I would take, say, this layer. I want everything on there to be shadowed. This is a terrible idea. I'm going to swipe left and duplicate this layer. And then the bottom layer, I'm going to come up to adjustments and I'm going to change the layer to be just black. That in itself kind of gave it some dimension. I could stop there, but no. Now I'm going to take that second layer, the one that's black now, and I'm going to come up here and do this Gaussian blur. And I'm going to blur that whole layer to make it look like it has a shadow. Again, real easy to overdo. The other thing, like if I can just do it subtly, then I'm going to use the select tool or the transformation tool, and I'm just going to come over here and tap it to the left and maybe to the top. So the shadow looks like it's coming from or it's shooting out towards the top left. That's just that. There may be better other ways. I'm certain there are better other ways to make a shadow, but for me, that's worked. Here's a lesson that I learned though. Don't merge. I'll explain what that is in a sec. The two layers, because you may decide in a year you want to show this again and you're like, dang it, I wish I could just turn that shadow off. If you leave it in its own layer, you can. But if you merge them, which I'm going to show you next, you can't unstick them. So selection is, let me go back to this layer. I want to put a loop around this thing here, and I want to put it into its own layer. I can draw around it. And one of the things I can do is come up to this menu, cut that out of there. So see now the shadow is still in there. And then paste it. And now what's cool about that is it put that selected section into its own layer. So now I can do all kinds of things with it with the transformation tool. I can rotate it. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. I can move it somewhere else on the page. Notice that the shadow didn't come with it. So to get rid of that shadow or to move it, I can do the same thing over here. I'm just going to erase it though, because I don't really, erase it all the way. Choose airbrushing. Let's just do that and get rid of it. That remove.bg website or an eraser app of some sort. This is another kind of nice way to be able to remove something if you're trying to save a PNG as a transparent image. So that's how to use that selection tool. I'm going to go to number 103 because this is super handy as you're figuring out like, oop, I messed that up. Oop, I want to redo that again. Oop, I need to copy and paste something without going up into a menu. These are the gestures. So when you've painted something, smudged something, or erased something, you just use one finger or your pencil. To undo, you just take two fingers side by side and tap on your screen. To redo it, use three fingers. I find myself trying to do this in every app now because this has taught me that I can really quickly undo and redo. Zoom and rotate is pinching. Copy, cut, paste. I don't think that one works anymore. You used to be able to use three fingers on the screen to copy, cut, paste, but I think they took that away with one of the updates. So in your actions menu, under preferences and gesture controls, this is where you can customize this. If there's something specific you want to do with four fingers or whatever, you can add that here. So if you want to be able to copy, cut, and paste, you can tap, finger touch, whatever. Turn those on or off. Four finger tap is off, so I can turn that back on. So now I get this menu that pops up for copy, cut, and paste when I four finger tap. Okay. One last thing I want to show you, and then we're going to try something, if that's cool with you guys. I want to show you how I draw a person. This is not necessarily the right way, not necessarily the only way, but I have figured out that this works really well for me. I'm going to add in a new layer here, and I'm going to show you this. So first, to draw a person, I just pick any color, doesn't really matter what. Make sure I'm in a layer that's not my cheat layer. And I draw I use a different kind of tool. I'm going to use the thin airbrush. Okay, to draw a circle. Does not even have to be a good circle. I'm going to draw a stick person. Doesn't matter if it's not connected. I see right here, if I try to fill that eye, it's not going to work. So I'm going to close that. I draw big, humongous eyes, little nose, and a smile. And then right now in that layer, I go ahead and fill stuff. Oops, I should probably get some irises because otherwise I'm nothing but pupils. And remember that little trick to select a color by holding it down on the color you want. So I want to put a little white there. And then, okay, so that's it first. Then I add another layer on top of that, and I'm going to show you why. When you do stuff in the same layer, like is over here on the left, when I go try to fill my hair, I'm going to have to try to fill this and this and this and this. Whereas if I just do one chunk of hair like so, I can fill that layer by itself. I think that's much easier than trying to fill individual parts. So I do that, and then I add clothes on top of my stick figure. Put in a blue dress, like that. Choose, I don't know, I've been barefoot a lot this summer. It's been so great. So I'm going to do the same color as face. Whoops. Keep doing that. Okay. And then I can merge those together and add more detail if I want. So let me show you how to merge. I want to put these two layers on the right here, the clothes and the person, together so that they're in the same layer. So if I move her, I can move her whole body, not just her clothes and hair. There's a couple ways I can do that. I can tap on layer 5 and right down here where it says merge down, close to the bottom, it merges those two layers together. Or I can take those two layers over on the side here and like pinch them together. So my pointer finger is going on layer 5, my thumb's going on layer 4, and I'm just going to pinch them together. That will merge them. Or even better, and I've learned this the hard way, instead of merging them, I'm going to put them into their own, I'll call it a sub layer, by dragging one, oops, underneath the other like this. That makes a group. So then if I want to move the whole group, I can. If I still want to make some adjustments, like adding some eyebrows on top or coloring the cheeks. Oops, that's not a good brush. Let's choose this one. Nope. Let's do like that. I'm not messing with my person, I'm adding the layer. And then if I do still want to move it or shrink it or whatever, it all goes together. I highly recommend adding those groups instead of merging, unless you're absolutely positively positive you want to merge, because you can't take them back apart. Does that make sense? Okay. So will you guys play along with me on something real quick? We're going to do just a quick draw. Go to your gallery. You can save this whatever you want. We'll call this PBS, Procreate. Done. So now I have it. One thing to know, you can put these into stacks. So if you have a bunch of things that go together, like my Sketch 50 things, I had 50 drawings that I wanted to be together. You can just drag them together like this. You hold one and drag it over the top of the other. And now that is a stack of two different, oops, clicked on the wrong one, two different pictures. So it's easier to have them instead of like, where is that thing? Scrolling. They're all selected and collected, I should say, together. So come back to here, open up a blank, screen sized if you want, new canvas, and we're going to do this thing. Ready? I'm just going to grab this real quick. Probably I've already seen this, so this is silly that I'm doing this, but I want to show you one part at a time. This is called the Japanese cube test, okay? So on your canvas, first, imagine you're in a desert. So however you want to represent the fact that you're in a desert, you don't even need a cheat layer for this. You can imagine you're in a desert. Next, sitting in the desert is a cube. So add a cube to your desert. Got it? Okay, next, there's a ladder. So somewhere in your desert, in your picture, there's a ladder. Okay. Next, imagine that there's a horse somewhere in your scene. Channel your inner quick draw. Don't make it too fancy. Let's see your stick horse. Oh, I can't wait to see your horses. Generally, no. Okay. Got your horse somewhere in there? Now imagine there's flowers somewhere in the desert. Okay, and finally, grab your umbrella. A thunderstorm is coming. All right, you got it? So if I gave you a few more minutes, I'm sure you could perfect this, but don't, just leave it as it is. You're gonna go up to, beside where it says the gallery up there, click on the wrench, and then go to share, and save that thing as either a JPEG or a PNG. You pick. PNG is optimal if you have transparency in your image. It's usually a really high quality, high resolution image. JPEG is just a standard photo image. And then I'm just going to save that image to my device. You could airdrop it to yourself or whatever you want. You're going to save that image somewhere so you can access it later. Okay, now for me, I saved it to my photo roll. So if I go to photos, it should, in theory, be there in my library. But where did I actually save it? I think I must have hit cancel. Okay, PNG. I'm going to save the image. Oh, all photos. Here it is. Okay. All right, ready? What does this mean? So are you looking at your drawing now? You're really expertly beautiful at drawing. Here's what this means. The cube you drew, supposedly, represents your ego. If it's small, you have a small ego. If it's large, maybe you have large. If it's clear, is it see-through? Is it opaque? How did you draw your cube? That represents your ego. The ladder represents your friends. Maybe you have the ladder leaning against your cube. Maybe the ladder is leaning away from the cube. Maybe the cube is up against the ladder. That represents your friends. Maybe how many rungs it has. The horse represents your closest relationship. So if your horse was facing away, if your horse was facing towards you, if your horse was to the side, walking away, whatever, the horse, however you drew the horse, supposedly represents your closest relationship. Flowers represent children. I don't know if it's your personal children, your school children, how you feel about children in general. Maybe you only drew one flower, maybe you drew 100, whatever. And then the storm represents your fears or stress. So supposedly if it's like far away in the distance, it's maybe something you know it's out there, but you're not particularly worried about it. If it's dark and looming, you feel probably more stress right now. What do you think? Is it accurate?
I'm worried about the size of my ego a little bit.
Was it quite large?
Larger than I think it should be.
Ooh, well, if you had drawn each of those in layers, Nikki, you could shrink it.
I know, I should have, yeah. And I'm worried that I only have one flower and I actually have two children. So I can maybe unpack that a little bit.
Maybe the flower represents the children collectively.
Yeah, maybe.
Laura, you had a big
on this or the interpretation.
Yeah, I know. I came across that on like Instagram or Facebook or something a couple years ago. I was like, oh, this is hilarious. It's always interesting to see people like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed once they finish drawing. 2 flowers and 2 kids, Andrea, nice. So I know Nikki has a dentist appointment. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but I do want to let you guys work and experiment a little bit while I'm here to, if not help, at least help look up stuff. So Here's some things that you might decide to try. A card, make a card for somebody. They would love it. Take your favorite joke and sketch that out. A blog post is a really fun thing to do because you can encapsulate what you're reading into a picture, especially those recipe blogs. You have to read like 1,000 things about someone's grandma before they just tell you how to make the recipe. A favorite quote. I will say in Billings, I know you can take any image or any PDF and send it to our print shop and have it made into like a poster or something. This would be really fun to have kids do some version of this and then have them sent to print shop and make into, whatever. I'm going to show you a really sort of strange thing that I have used Procreate for. Well, one, designed a lot of tattoos with Procreate. My son has an old dog. He wants something like this, but he wants it to be his actual dog. So we took some ink and had Ben step on paper, and it turned out terrible. But then the footprints that came out on the sidewalk when he walked away were way better. So I just scanned them. And then these are pictures that my son took when we were up at Glacier last year. So I thought, well, that would be fun to have it be a scene that he actually took and work it into like a design. So here I brought this into Procreate, traced the paw print, and then put that photo as a layer behind it, and then just really roughly sketched out where the trees were and the mountains were and the flowers were and the river was. I was able to move that background around to get everything kind of in the right place. So we're still working on this one, but this is the one that he really liked. Some others I had considered are, this was that comet. I can't remember what it was last year, that comet last summer. We took this picture on that same weekend, but he wanted the foresty scene best. I thought this was another kind of cool. So that's one thing. Another thing is, I don't think I'm that weird in doing this, but I see, shapes and stuff in clouds or in, what is that called on the wall? Like your texture on the wall. I was sitting here one day listening to one of my kids tell a real long story. I was looking up at the ceiling and I'm like, oh, hey, there's a surfer up there. So I grabbed my iPad, took a picture of it, brought it into Procreate, and started just like, all right, here's how weird I am. These are things that I see out in the world. So here is, let me turn those off. Here was a chalk drawing that I saw out on the sidewalk. And I was like, I'm sure that's supposed to be the outline of a person, but I see a fish. So I drew the fish. Yeah. And then I don't even see my surfer guy. That we went to Bighorn Canyon. I think that's where we were. See, the other thing about grouping them is I wouldn't have to turn all these layers off. I could just turn the one like main layer off. Here's the picture. I could see all these faces in the rocks. So I just started adding layers to all these really weird things. And that's how it came out. Bizarre. But this was a really fun way to play around with like the shading and the different smudge tools and stuff. So this is really how I've been getting a kick out of using my iPad. Oh, and of course I do erase the original image. This was a piece of cheese on a plate. And I was like, oh, it looks like a bird giving a speech on a stage. And so it was pigeon pontificating, I called it. So even if you just do something stupid like this, here's one that I haven't even done yet, I don't think. Maybe I did. But look at that face. Look at that guy. So you can take these and just be sure that, oh, I did do this one. There he is. He turned out kind of funky and weird, but anyway, that was color matching and smudging and just learning to do that kind of stuff. Most recently, I was telling Nikki I'm taking graphic design classes. Yes, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? And so I decided one week to take the boring lecture and try to sketch it live. I couldn't. I ended up having to, because there was so much stuff the guy was saying and it was really specific, I ended up having to do the pictures and then I went back in and added text by typing it. That was much easier for me, but you can use this for anything you want. Like I said, if you have a picture that you're trying to erase a background from, This fall, I used it for a whiteboard on when I was teaching remotely. I just pulled this up and showed them how to calculate by just using it as a pen. So there's just some various things that you could do, but any of this stuff here, I triple dog dare you to try sketching a staff meeting. That'd be so cool. It would add interest for you, but it would also probably help you remember that stuff that you were supposed to learn. And the big idea is, remember this, layer, layer, layer. I need to change this from merge to group, adjust the threshold, and just find your own style. Practice drawing stick figures and different things like that to see what kind of people, what do your little people look like? I now know if I'm looking at something, I can identify one of my people right away because that's just what my drawings look like. You'll find your own sort of style as you go. But I would love to use the last few minutes to have you guys just try to make something, anything you want at all. And then I put it in a folder here. This folder has some sketches from the last crew that did this. Let's see if here's Debbie Tucker's. She was playing with the different brushes. Very pretty. Oh, by the way, most of the people who use Procreate are legitimate artists. They make the craziest stuff. One of them is on Instagram. It's called, oh shoot, yeah, Continue As Me. Come on, not now. It's called Subpar Parks. This is my favorite. This lady takes national parks and she goes on to Yelp and finds reviews that people have done of these parks that are bad, like boring, too hot, not much to do. Zion. So she takes like a scene from Zion and sketches it using Procreate and then puts captions it with these statements from people. They're hilarious. Skip this place entirely. Yes, please don't go to Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. So she's taken this and made it in. Here's her sketch of how she does it. I'm as fascinated with her process as I am her actual art. I love her style. I love the different colors she's got, the way she starts with a base sketch. I love it, love it, love it, love it. So anyway, that's just something that you have access to. Somebody made a menu. Somebody else was just practicing with colors. So if you guys want to just take like maybe 10 minutes, create something, and then just pop it in here into this folder. Sound okay? Remind me to unmute.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you remind me how to erase like with a big chunk of drawing rather than just a single line?
Yes. So there's two different ways that you could do that. I'm going to open up this one because it's ready. And I just did everything in the same layer. You can choose your eraser tool, tap on it twice, and then just pick a thicker brush. Like I like to use the airbrush when I want to erase a lot. And then experiment with it. Like that erased pretty good, but if I want to make it even bigger, I just increase the brush size. It's like the whole screen. So that's too much. You can just kind of adjust the size till you find one that works to get the amount of area you need. Another way to do that would be to cut it instead. So I'm going to go to the selector tool here and I'm going to do freehand. And I'm just going to kind of draw a line around the part that I want to. You can either draw a line or just kind of tap. So you can go tap, 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 tap. I like to kind of draw. And then once you have that, if you've turned on the copy, cut, paste menu, you can do it there. You can go up to the wrench or right down here in the bottom right on that menu, I can hit clear. Oops, oh, that clears the drawing. Hold on. All right, so I'm just going to do, this under add, cut it out. If I know I want to put it somewhere else, then I can paste it into its own layer and move it around. Most of the time when I'm doing that though, is I just want to get rid of it. Does that help? Awesome. I like to use the cut because then I can get really precise with like, I want to go just around this little corner. I'll cut it out of there. I think instead of cutting, the other thing you could do would be, hold on, to use the, once you've selected it like this, use the little arrow tool. Oh, shoot, nope. Let me try that one more time. I thought, oh, remove. Nope. Add, nope. Invert, nope. I thought there used to be a way I could use the little arrow tool and drag it off the screen, but it doesn't look like I can do that anymore. So sorry. I bet there's other ways though, Andrea, that I'm not even thinking of.
No, that helps a lot. The double clicking on the eraser, because I was selecting the eraser, but then I was going back to the pencil to select the pencil. So no, that helped a lot.
Yep, you just
Thank
double
you.
tap on the tool. Yep. And that's the same with the smudge or the brushes. Figure out how to get I wanted a map of the United States that was colored in with different colors for a game that I was making. It turned out to be this right here. I just went on to the internet, found a common whatever licensed map that was clear like this, or white, whatever. And then I just started coloring it in by adding layers and shading it like that. That was super handy because otherwise my use for this map was so specific. I could not find anything that looked even close to what I was trying to do. So again, Procreate saved the day. Let me know what some of these are. Oh, yeah. I had started just to practice learning how to letter and be, I don't have a really steady hand, but I found on Amazon this book here. It's cute hand lettering for journals and whatever. It actually has space in it for you to practice. I wished that I would have just done it on my iPad instead of in the book, because then I could share the book, but two, then I would have a digital record of it. So, oh, I did. I must have done it in a notebook. There's lots of resources out there to help you learn how to do any of this stuff better. I would love to get to a point where I can do it not digitally and have access to that undo, but do it like on a piece of paper or something on the spot. Not quite there yet. Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Please. You don't have to. Okay, I'm going to show you, I'm going to leave you with two last, try any of you who have kids or maybe even grandkids, this is for you. You ready? I literally learned how to draw two things when I was a kid, and I'm going to show them both to you now. Ready? One is a little snake or a worm. You could turn it into a turtle if you wanted, but here's how you do it. You start with a little swirly like this, and then you loop around like a U. He's got a really fat neck. You just keep making as many little loops as you want there to be on your little snake. Finish him off with the tail. Then you give him like little bendy wrinkles. And And then you put a little happy face on him because you don't want anybody to be scared. Here, I'm going to give him a little thinner neck because that's just terrifying. You can put a little bow on him or a top hat on him or whatever you want. That's your snake. Okay, then my favorite, we're going to make a boy out of the word boy. So you write boy, you connect the top of the B to the outside of the Y, and then same with here. And then the B and the O become his glasses. So you can give him some little eyes. And then this is the curve of the Y turns into his hair. And you just give him a face. Ta-da! You're welcome. You're welcome.